We talked about the blame. If you're talking about a blame pie, we gave out the slice for the coaching staff and the game plan. We gave out the slice to just the team in general, seeing as though there were limitations that their defense was able to overcome. Well, it was not able to overcome it in this series. I even gave the slice to Anthony Edwards, seeing as though he's young and it does take time to mature in the playoffs because the playoffs is a much different animal than the regular season. The question was, does this playoff run extinguish all those 9 years? And while, again, like I said, I don't think the reporter was taking it here. That's where I'm going to take it. This is where I'm going to take it. If you're wondering why there was such a lack of success for the Minnesota Timberwolves those 9 years that Karl Anthony Towns was there pretty much as the number one option, this series should have showed you. It's not all Karl Anthony Towns' fault, but he is a major key to why the Timberwolves ultimately didn't advance to the finals. Gilbert Arenas in his podcast talked about this. And these are people that have obviously been in playoff series, been in the trenches. You know, you have him, you have Brandon Jennings, you have Lexi Brown, you have Rashad McCant, Kenyon Martin, all very established players for their time. And they said something that I said. Now, this isn't me tooting my own horn, but this is me acknowledging that every series is different. Now, that's obviously the oversimplification of what I'm saying, but every series is different, meaning there's going to be a series where one player may thrive more than the other. There's going to be series where one player is more important than the other. It's all about matchups. And the best teams are able to find the mismatches and exploit those mismatches. I said going into this series that Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels are going to have their hands full with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. That was true. I said he should be able to feast as far as defensively, but there should be no one in this God-given earth that thinks that Rudy Gobert can carry you offensively. No one. There also should be no one that thinks that at his age, and even in his prime, Mike Conley wasn't a number one option. Mike Conley's good, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't a number one option. I said, and the Gilbert Arenas podcast, shouts out to them, they said as well, this series is supposed to be Karl Anthony Towns series. When you look at the matchup that's in front of you, PJ Washington, you should dominate that matchup. One of those players, PJ Washington and Karl Anthony Towns, one of them is a former number one overall pick. One of them is a 5-star recruit that went to oh, they both did. But one of them has the skill set to be a number one overall pick, has a skill set to be a superstar. One of them does not. Doesn't mean that PJ Washington is trash, but when we talk about skill level, I don't think there's anyone that would think that PJ Washington is a better player, basketball player than Karl Anthony Towns. The question was, does this playoff run negate those 9 years? And I think it hit me. This is why. This is why Karl Anthony Towns cannot be a number one option. This is why Karl Anthony Towns cannot be trusted in these moments. It's not just because they lost. It's not just because I think he's a major reason why he lost. It's the fact of you're not a rookie anymore. 9 years, you're essentially a vet. Not essentially, you are a vet. Meaning, you shouldn't be you shouldn't be making rookie mistakes. You shouldn't be doing rookie things. Like rookie fouls. Fouling at the wrong moment. Fouling, just stupid fouls. And Karl Anthony Towns is full of that. Or the fact of you're like 7 feet tall. And you're playing against a player in PJ Washington who's 6'9", 6'10". And for some reason, you continue to jack threes. I understand that you self-proclaim yourself as the greatest big man shooter to ever live. Cool. The Timberwolves don't need that in this series. They need the Karl Anthony Towns that can get his ass in the paint, like Charles Barkley said, like Shaq said in the Inside the NBA crew. Get your ass in the paint, bro. You are the mismatch. This should be your series. Why are you taking 30-something threes? And hitting like 7 of them. I think it's been proven that if Karl Anthony Towns is your best player, you have no shot at winning a championship. And a lot of people don't understand what that means. Usually, the team adopts the identity, adopts the personality of your best player. And Karl Anthony Towns has been the Timberwolves' best players before Anthony Edwards got there. And it's no coincidence that there has not been any success for the Timberwolves when Karl Anthony Towns is their best player. And I'm starting to feel that if Karl Anthony Towns is your second best player, you may not be a championship caliber team. Don't get me wrong, man. Karl Anthony Towns is a fine basketball player. He had a 60-plus point game this year. He can score with the best of them. He is a great shooter when he is hitting shots. So he could be a great defender. He was one of the main reasons why they won against the Timberwolves. Against the Denver Nuggets. His defense on Jokic, even though Jokic was killing him and killing Rudy Gobert, but in key moments, his defense on Jokic is kind of what changed the series and changed that Game 7 when they were already down 20 and they started hitting. So I'm not saying that Karl Anthony Towns isn't a good basketball player, but what I'm saying is Karl Anthony Towns has proven with some of the dumb fouls that he does, some of the erratic moves that he does, he cannot be a player that you build a franchise around. And I'm starting to think that, because wasn't it last year which he also struggled mightily in the playoffs? Now, yes, eventually it was against the Nuggets who eventually won the championship. But didn't he struggle again? A series that should have, because yes, you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything against against Jokic. But isn't that yet another advantage, at least offensively, that Karl Anthony Towns has? Because Jokic ain't playing no defense. And I would like to think that Karl Anthony Towns is a better player than Andrew Gordon or Aaron Gordon. But yet again, that's yet another matchup that he lost. I'm not saying they have to trade Karl Anthony Towns. But what I'm saying is, Karl Anthony Towns is not. He's shown the ability to be a good basketball player. He has not shown the ability to be a first or even second option on a championship caliber team. We all thought that the Minnesota Timberwolves were a championship caliber team, seeing as though they beat the Suns, they beat the reigning champions or the defending champions in the Nuggets. But when you ran up against a team that you should have dominated, what do they say? You can't teach a new dog old trick, or an old dog new tricks. The old Karl Anthony Towns popped his ugly head, complaining to the refs, missing shots, flailing at the rim. He didn't start really hitting rim. He could be injured, I don't know, but he didn't start hitting them layups until game 4 and 5. So, and the very last thing I'm gonna say, because I realize I've been talking about this joint for like 40 minutes. The very last thing I'm gonna say is, you hear it just like you hear all the other time. You heard this with the Bengals, which we're going to talk about a little bit in a second. You hear about all the young teams. They'll be back. And this is just me giving a friendly reminder that we don't know. This is another reason why I'm not saying to trade him, but I think that you have to explore it. This Minnesota Timberwolves team is about to get extremely expensive, extremely fast. I think Anthony Edwards' extension is about to kick in. Jaden McDaniels' extension is about to kick in. Rudy Gobert is about to be expensive. Karl Anthony Towns is about to be expensive. Naz Reid is about to be expensive. To me, kind of like what's going on with Golden State right now, you can't justify paying all these huge contracts and not reaching your ultimate goal, which is a championship. The thing that's giving Golden State grace right now is obviously they were a dynasty. They had 4 championships, and they also have a top 10 player of all time, arguably, in Steph Curry, and arguably the greatest trio of all time in Steph, Clay, and Dre. But the Minnesota Timberwolves don't have that luxury. So I'm not saying trade Karl Anthony Towns. What I'm saying is you have to explore it, because this team is going to get expensive. And one thing I do know about NBA championships, usually extremely expensive teams either win it that year or they don't win it at all. Want a perfect example? Look at the Suns. I think the Suns had one of the, if not the highest or most expensive team in the league. I think Golden State was up there too. Look where they got. That's why I think you're going to see a lot of changes with the Heat as well, because they're about to get expensive, especially when you look at Jimmy Butler. So for all those people that's saying Minnesota will be back, I think Anthony Edwards is a fine basketball player. I think Anthony Edwards has the ability to be arguably a top 5, top 10 player in this league, maybe even next year. I don't think that this team that's currently constructed will be back. Because again, this team still has an issue shooting the ball. They still can't really shoot. So, and on top of that, they're about to get an extremely expensive team that can't really shoot the ball. Yo, do you know how many times I saw Kyle Anderson taking the slowest 3-point shots, and I think a couple of them airballed? Like, come on now, bro. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.